Welcome back, everyone, to the TradeXchange Weekend Week Ahead webinar. We want to wish everyone once again Happy New Year's. We are excited to be back on a live stream. We welcome everyone who joined us today and to everyone who is on watching in regards to our streams. Just a quick recap of last week. All three indices ended the week stronger, up over 1%, following the employment report strength on Friday. Traders keyed in on the wage aspect of the report that showed a slowdown, which traders believe could ease inflation pressures. One other aspect, we also saw the yield market retreat. We're focusing always on the 10-year yield, which ended the week around 3.56%. The previous week, we saw a run on the 10-year to 3.88%. So we did see a large drop across the yield markets following the strength in the week and following that employment report. Next week, members, we have a lot on the agenda. First, we have Fed Chair Powell speaking on Tuesday. We are watching in regards to the recent Fed speakers continue to focus on that 2% inflation goal. It will be interesting to see if Powell has any change in demeanor when it comes to the inflation and markets. We have the all-important CPI report on Thursday, and I hope everyone is excited for the start of earnings season, with the banks kicking off things this Friday. One thing to keep in mind in regards to earnings, the past few months, we have seen analysts across Wall Street lower expectations this earnings season. So we are interested to see how the recent markets and inflation will impact earnings across the NYSE, NASDAQ, and the small cap names. Members, keep in mind that historical quote, as goes January, so goes the year. According to the S&P, that quote has worked over 70% of the time following the action in January. So let's take a peek at the week ahead. First, top earnings for the week. As you can see, the banks are starting things up later this week. Citigroup, JP Morgan, Wells Fargo. So Bank of America, we'll see how that starts up. And then we have earnings season going full steam ahead starting next week. What's on the agenda for this week on Monday? On the U.S. side, consumer credit, Fed speak, Bostich and Daly. Tuesday, Fed Chair Powell speaking at the Rixey Bank Symposium. Double Lines annual webcast. Wednesday, China's CPI and PPI. Thursday, we have the U.S. CPI, Fed speak from Bullard, Barkin, and Harker. And on Friday, U.S. consumer sentiment, import and export prices, and Fed speak Harker. As always, we have your company events for the week, list of always the top shareholder meetings and analyst and investor calls. As always, top conferences for the week. Members, if anyone needs a breakdown of who is presenting or if a company is presenting, you can always reach out to us via email or through the news desk with the Ask the Desk option. U.S. economic calendar for the week. Taking a peek at what we're looking at for the week. Monday, as you can see, Fed speak is back in play. Monday, Raphael Bostich, Mary Daly, and consumer credit. We'll see how the consumer is doing. Tuesday, not much on the economic side, but we do have Jerome Powell, the Fed chair, speaking on Tuesday morning. Wednesday as well, not much on the agenda as of now. Thursday, Fed speak from Harker, Bullard, and Barkin, and we also have the all-important CPI report. Friday, Fed speak from Harker. We have import and export prices, which is a inflationary a print as well that we'll be watching, as well as consumer sentiment. Let's see how the consumer continues to do on Friday morning. International calendar, as always, and earnings. As you can see, Friday, we do have a slew of big bank earnings and the start of earnings season. Your fear and greed index, the mindset is back to a neutral mindset in the markets. We did see a pop from last week where we were in the fear area, but now we're back to that neutral mindset. We'll see what happens this week with Powell, the CPI, and earnings in play. Weekly sector performance, strength in communication services. We don't see that much, but we are seeing it this week. The weakness, one red area in healthcare to end the week, but strength across the board in all sectors. NEC comparison, as always, to the COVID move, we are continuing to see a little turns. So it's interesting to see what happens in January with earnings and all that coming up. Unemployment rate, we do see continuing to be near recent all-time lows. Remember, these shaded areas are recessionary times, so we are seeing always an uptick when we do hit recession. So we'll see if that happens in the current market environment that we have right now. Target rate probabilities, correction, that's going to be for the February meeting. We'll update that. Current, it's about 50 basis point, 25 basis points on that mindset. Year-to-date percent returns, brand new year, brand new year-to-date. Last year we had energy controlling the board, and now energy is right at the bottom. Nat gas down 15%, heating oil down 11%, gasoline down 9%, crude oil down almost 8.5%. Weakness across the board in the energy markets. Your AAII investor sentiment survey did see a downtick back on the bullish side from 26 to 20, but that neutral mindset, what a pop from 25 to 37. It's the neutral mindset. It's a new year, new mindset, hopefully in play. We'll see what happens going forward. Sector outlook, as always, we mentioned earlier, healthcare is the only red on the, as of right now, year to date. Some IPO lockup expirations, some expected IPOs, and your FDA calendar for the week. Keep in mind, members, we always do add these or update these every morning on the news desk. Next ahead, we have charts. Some charts that we watch week to week. We add this. Once again, members, we'll be answering some questions after the presentation. We're almost at that point. We also have a few emails that come in week to week. Just a quick look at these charts. Gold. We added a resistance level, but this chart is just a view straight up off the uptrend. No break, testing across the board. So we are watching that very closely on gold. If we do see a test of resistance and a drop or a continued move back to that 1900 level. So we're watching gold closely. SPY. Correction, jumping down to the NASDAQ daily. No changes to the chart. We mentioned last week that the 10.5 level is key for a directional move. We're continuing to see a break above and below on this NASDAQ. We'll be watching this closely for any directional move following this week. SPY daily with a moving average and a trend line look. We did see that level being built here. We saw a little uptick this week, so we're watching if this move continues to test this downtrend line up ahead. Triple Q daily on the moving average look. IWM daily on a moving average look as well. 10-year yield. And a 10-year yield looking at a weekly basis. No changes to the chart. We can see once the downtrend broke a few weeks back, we saw that vicious pop in the 10-year yield. Tested that downtrend, sold off, and trending back to the support levels on a weekly basis on your 10-year yields. Diamond on a daily basis as well. That range built, saw an upside move this week, watching it closely to see if we test upside resistance or we see a retrace back to that range level. IWM on a weekly basis, no changes to the chart. Last week we did test the 170s support, bounced off that support, ended at the highs of the day. So we are seeing strength in the IWM weekly as those support levels have been tested. HYG on a daily, S&P 500 on a daily. No changes to the chart, members. Last week we mentioned that a base was being built in the 3,800s level. A move to the upside could test 3,900. Where did we end up? 3,895. So that level range was being tested and tested and tested, and we finally saw an upside move on your S&P testing that resistance level. Keep in mind, members, no changes to the chart. So this resistance level has been there, has been on watch, and will be watched this week. VIX on a daily, still test, 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 test. It'll be interesting to see if we do a pop to the highs, or we can see that retest back to those 14, 15 levels to the downside. Oil, no changes to the chart. Interesting, last week we added that short-term uptrend. This was added from last week. Once that uptrend was broken, we saw a $5 move lower. So we are watching oil very closely, starting to build some sort of a base in between support of the 70s and resistance of 75 to 80. US dollar daily, no changes to the chart. The US dollar continues to try and find its direction. The previous chart, we saw a break below 104 and a run back above that level. This time around, same thing. We broke above 104, but came back at 103.91. So we are watching this range in the 104s as a key level to watch on the US dollar. Bitcoin, not even going to discuss, no action, no move. And your SMH daily on the moving average chart. So members, we're going to take a quick mic break just so we can get an idea of any of the questions. And we'll be right back to go over any questions that anyone has. You can type it in the chat box or send us an email, which we have already, and we'll watch. And we'll be back in a few seconds just to go over those questions. One question from the room. Do you send this week ahead report out to members? Yes, members. This goes out. It's posted in the news desk every week. It's actually even posted in the drop down under the week ahead tab for our members. So it's there throughout the week. If anyone needs to go back to it, excuse me, you just hit the drop down button in the news desk and the week ahead link, and it should provide access to the full report. We had a few questions on the email side. What are our thoughts going into this week? Members, we're staying very vigilant in regards to what comments are going to be made by Fed Chair Powell on Tuesday, if there will be any comments being made by Fed Chair Powell. And then it's all about the CPI report. What's going to happen on the CPI report? I think this report could dictate a lot of moves in the next few weeks going into the Fed announcement in February. But also, members, we have earnings coming. So it's a very busy week, and it's going to be a very interesting week to see how all those charts that showed strength will what will happen this week with Powell, with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 other Fed speaks are scheduled. Keep in mind, members, this gets updated on a day-to-day basis in the news desk. So we could have a list of 10, 15 Fed speakers this week. So we have Fed Powell on Tuesday, CPI report on Thursday, and the start of earnings season on Friday. So it's a very busy week, especially after coming off of 2 weeks of holiday weeks. It's going to be interesting to see what the market does. Another question we had in regards to so goes January, so goes the year. They didn't mention the fact that we mentioned that last year as well. We kept on talking about the weakness we've seen in the volatility in markets and how that dictated last year. And yeah, we saw that last year. We mentioned it. We discussed it numerous times in our webinars in regards to that weakness that we saw that started the year. And it went throughout the whole entire 2022. This time around, we are staying watching very closely to see what this market does in January. Will it see strength? Will we see weakness? Will earnings shock to the upside? Will the Fed eventually stop and pause? It'll be an interesting year. It'll be an interesting month. interesting quarter. And we'll be here to tell you in regards to what is going on, what's the sentiment, what's the mindset, and as always, what's the news flow. So we'll take any other questions. Please shoot them in the chat box. If not, we'll be ending this webinar for the week. Once again, members, we want to thank everyone and welcome back to our weekly weekend webinars. We're very excited on a lot of things that are going on the Trade Exchange side. We're going to keep everyone updated. A lot of new things being added, a lot of new relationships being built, that is going to benefit all our members in 2023. And once again, we want to thank everyone for joining us. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. Get ready for a pretty busy week coming. Thank you. Enjoy. Trade Exchange out.